Hey FCF, it is day 3 of Cave People, and we're going to meet somebody that we probably are familiar with today in a cave, and it is David, who we knew to be King David, that God calls the man after his own heart. He was not the first king of Israel. Saul was the first king. David was the second king of Israel. But the scriptural story, the background of David, we're going to pick up in chapter 22, where we find David hiding, running for his life, hiding in a cave, the cave of Adullam. But it's not how it all started. The story starts, back in 1 Samuel 15 to 16. He's this young shepherd boy. He's watching his dad's sheep and so forth. And he's also a talented musician as well as a warrior. And King Saul has broken, God's covenant with him. He is no longer God's choice to lead the nation. God has chosen. He has told Samuel the prophet, David is my real choice as king. And David's just kind of doing what needs to be done around the house and so forth. Saul starts having these manic, demonically inspired, depressive fits. And so he calls for David, not knowing, he just wanted the best musician he could find, for some musician to come play soothing music when he went through these manic fits. So God leads David, who is God's choice to be king, into the king's court. Of course, King Saul does not know this. Then we know the storyline changes rather quickly. Within a year or so's time, David gets engaged with this battle with the giant Goliath. The rest of the Israelite army and warriors were afraid to fight Goliath because of his great size and war experience. David has already learned that you can trust in God and use the skills that God's given you, and you can ward off a bear or a lion, which he had done while he was a shepherd boy. And he said, Goliath will just be the same because he's not fighting me, he's fighting God. You know the story. David wins the battle. Well, Saul takes him in. And before long, Saul gives to David his daughter, Michal, or Michael, however you want to pronounce her name. So then Saul realizes the people are more excited about David than him, and they're cheering for David in the streets. Saul gets insecure and he tries to kill David. So David has to leave his new wife and run for his life. And this period lasts for about 4 years. David is on the run. Saul is chasing him all over the land. He is seeking to kill him. And David finally lands up in this cave. So let me start reading to you now. 1 Samuel chapter 22, verse 1. It says, David left Gath, that was Philistine territory, and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and his father's household heard about it, they went down to him there. Now listen to verse 2. All those who were in distress or in debt or discontented gathered around him, and he became their leader. About 400 men were with him. So here's David. He's on the run for his life. He knows that God has anointed him to be king, but he also knows that Saul is out to kill him, and he knows that Saul will kill him. And so he's running for his life. He's hiding in a cave, and then his family comes to him there. So that probably brought great comfort and alarm, because he knew that he wanted to protect them too. But then all these malcontents, all the refuse of society, all the people that nobody wanted essentially, they start coming to this cave. The next thing you know, David's got 400 people that are with him, but he's also responsible for them. Now here's the interesting thing. At this horrific time in his life, that David probably just felt stressed to the max, couldn't figure out what was going on, what was God's plan, what was happening. This was the core of David's army that was forming. These become David's key warriors for many, many battles that will come. They become his key supporters, his most loyal friends and loyal allies. The people, now here's the lesson for us. The people that come to you and I when we have nothing to offer, the people that come to you and I when we're broken and on the run, when it looks like we're beaten, and they still see God's hand on us, they still see God at work in us, they still affirm God is with us to the point that they are willing to align themselves with us when no one else wants to, and there's no apparent advantage in doing it. In fact, there's every apparent disadvantage of aligning themselves with us. These are the people that God will use to build your character, to build your life, to build your unique ministry, These are the people to treasure. These are the times to treasure. Cave life can be the most valuable time in any of our lives. It doesn't feel good. It feels very disturbing, but it's when we find out who we are, who God is, and more importantly, who are our real friends, our real family. You could even put it in that construct, who they really are. And they tend to be the people that God uses formatively for the very rest of our life. So if you're in a cave today, look around and see who comes to see you in the cave, because they're special people.